To live victoriously, number one, I would say you need to be you. Put yourself in a place of being a priority. Because if you don't, there's no way you can live victoriously because you're going to be looking after everybody else. Everybody else is more important than you. That's what you'll have in your head. And to give yourself boundaries. There are boundaries that we need to stay within. It's okay to take care of somebody, to provide for somebody, to be a caretaker, but you also have to look for yourself. And I go into a little bit in the course about meditation, meditating and knowing who you are. My podcast is about to start also, and it's called Discovering You. And if you can discover who you are, you will want to live victoriously because that's when you will begin to know who you really are. And also, I have a retreat that's coming up in October for women that we're going to just go inside a lot of self-awareness, a lot of meditation, yoga, just so you can figure out who it is that's inside there that needs to come out to live victoriously. Because I believe if we don't tap into our inside of who we really are, it's no way you can live victoriously because that's the step to tap into to really who you really are. And that will help you live victoriously. And then enroll in my program. We will walk through it step by step to get you to live victoriously.
It's the Logan Power Show. Inspirational and motivational. It's the Logan Power Show. Informational to help you grow. Logan Power Show.
And now the host, Calvin Logan.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Logan Power Show. It's me, your host, Calvin Logan, and I know it's a beautiful day outside. It's beautiful where I am, and I want you all to relax and get your ears attentive, get your eyes focused and locked in to a woman of God who wants to talk about two things. We're going to focus on her first time coming to the Logan Power Show and talk about her book and also about her company as well. You're going to be excited. I'm excited as well. She is the one and only coming to the Logan Power Show her very first time, Mrs. Jeanette Jones. How you doing, Mrs. Jones?
I'm doing great. And thank you for having me, Mr. Logan. I appreciate it.
No
Thank you.
problem, ma'am. No problem. Just wanted congratulations again on your first novel. Again, Step by Step, Walk with God, the Everlasting Anchor.
Yeah.
I know that God does order your steps, and it's a process to get to your actual full totality of purpose. Because understand this, God orders your steps. So,
Absolutely.
what came with the title to sort of say, okay, this is where I'm going with? What led you for the title for this book?
The title, God gave me a vision while I was in church doing a service about 15 years ago. And the title was God, the Everlasting Anchor. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know anything. That title just came. So life with busyness and life, busy, busy, busy. I didn't have a time to even sit down and do an outline for that. During COVID, I had time. So I sat down during COVID, made myself an outline and, just went from there. But I wanted that title and I added the step by step because I wanted to talk about my life and how God has been with me step by step throughout my life. And I started with my younger years in my hometown of Charleston, Virginia. I started there and I went on up to Charleston where I recently moved to. So I wanted to show people how progressive God is, through each stage of your life. He's right there with you. And sometimes, even in my book, I say, sometimes I feel like God's not even with me. It's like, are you here? Are you hearing me? Do you see what I need here? But one area I talk about in the book where, I needed a job one time and I went for the job. And the only thing I kept saying, I was praying the whole time this lady was interviewing me. And I couldn't even really hear her because I was praying so hard. And I was even afraid that I might come out and say to her, God, just let me get this job. But I got the job. Before I got home, as soon as I got home, she called me and said I got the job. And I give the analogy in the book about how sometimes it feels like you're falling and that God will just catch you right before you hit the pavement. And that's how I felt like in that moment of my life. Like I was just falling because I didn't know financially what I was going to do. So I wanted to bring this out in a book through my whole life, not just that incident, but other incidents in my life where God was there, through getting my degrees, being older, raising my daughter, alone. And that's my business is based on the fact that sometimes as women, we give, 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 and give. As women, sometimes we don't know the boundaries. I think as caregivers, we are born as caregivers. And I think the main thing is to realize boundaries because it's a God-given gift to be a caregiver and to be nurturing, but it also can be our greatest downfall because if we don't have boundaries. And I created Living Victoriously to show women you need boundaries. You need to make yourself a priority because sometimes we give and we get frustrated and mad at other people because we don't have the time, we're not taking the self-care, and we get an attitude with them when really we haven't put those boundaries in place. So I wanted to create, a business where I teach women to do that, to put those boundaries in place.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And just to piggyback off the book, in Matthew chapter 4, verse 6, says to guard you in all your ways. They will lift you up in their hands so that you will not strike. I repeat, will not strike. So strike your foot against the stone. And then what's that referring to is angels will not let you fall or falter. Right. And I know a lot of times what we do as believers, like you mentioned, that God caught you before you hit the pavement. Yeah. In that process, when you're saying God caught you before you hit the pavement, when you were about to hit the pavement, a lot of times when people do fall, you can break your fall. I can embrace it before I hit. Or when I'm about to impact something, the impact is different. Sometimes, if you're falling and you hit the grass, it feels different if I'm hitting the cement, and it's feel different if I'm hitting the water. Right. So for you, when God caught you from near death, what was the relief like? How did you feel internally and spiritually to get you to where you are now?
Oh man, that's a great question because it was a great feeling. When that lady talked, I had never been so happy to have a job. It could have been anything, any job. It didn't matter what the job was, but that I had employment. Because I didn't know whether I was going to be homeless or what was going to happen. You have all these things going through your head. Oh, I'm about to be homeless. I'm going to have to put all my clothes in a trash bag. You got all this stuff going through your head. And God's like, hold up, wait a minute. You haven't given me a chance to show who I am. And that's what he wants us to put our trust in him and not get all going in your head or what you think might happen. But the relief was the thing when you said that, Calvin, I thought about when you said the pavement, because sometimes the grass, but my analogy was pavement. So it was hard. It wasn't grass. It was hard. It was pavement. So that meant that I was at the point where I was getting ready to be homeless and I didn't know what to do. I really didn't. I didn't know where, I knew I had family that I could go to, but sometimes, just the shame, the embarrassment of being able to do that is hurting. So, the fact that God just saved me right at that moment from hitting the pavement, I had to write about
it. Absolutely. And, what people don't understand is that everyone's story is different in regards of how God can transcend your life. Getting the job was one of the faith levels for you. Being homeless, that's a whole nother type of faith level because now you're not relying upon shelter, you're relying upon the elements. And what I mean by the elements is for people who don't understand, a homeless person can survive better in the summer and the spring compared to the winter. Right. Because if the shelter is closed, what happens? I can go sleep outside and the elements of certain things are not going to impact me compared to when it's cold out. Right. Now, when it is cold, A lot of the creatures that do crawl ain't gonna really bother you, but it's gonna be cold to sleep on. But the body is not designed for the cold winter frost, based off of just, research, things like that. So I'm not trying to be like I'm a scientist expert, but I know how I feel. I know when it's below a certain time, my body does not respond well. It does with the heat.
Right.
Now you mentioned the company that you started, that's sort of your baby, Living Victorious LLC, life coaching for women, and how you try to get women back on track.
Mhm.
So tell us, why should we always live victoriously? Because sometimes you would say, well, challenges are what people face, and you're not gonna live victoriously all your life. It's kind of hard. Why should I come to you so I can live victorious?
Because I believe every day of our life, we should strive to live victoriously. I don't think it's a day in your life that you should live to live anything else other than victoriously, because God has called us to live that way. And we should aspire to live that way. There's no other way. That's how I see it. There's no other way. And to help women to put themselves first. Sometimes, like I said, we put everybody before us. The children, the husbands, the parents, the whomever, spouses, the boyfriends, everybody is before us. We put ourselves last a lot of times. It's just innate in us. For whatever reason, that's what we do. So I want women to know that they're important too. You need to make yourself a priority. And I created this program called Live Life Victoriously coaching program for women. And we look at the pillars of a successful, victorious woman. We look at those, we go in depth to those, and we with supportive relationships, optimal health, wealth and abundance, and we look at what's the other thing? The wealth and abundance and living big. How do you balance all of it out? Balance. How do you balance it out? Because sometimes we just so busy. How do we balance all this out? We look at that. So it's a program. It's an 8-week course where we go through in depth to look at these things. And I'll spend like an hour. It's an online course, and I'll spend an hour a week with the ladies to any questions they will have, anything they want to know. I say an hour, but with women, we're going to probably take longer than an hour because that's just who we are. But I'm looking forward to it though.
Amen. Amen. Final thought for you. There's a woman out here that's probably watching and not living victoriously, and they need to have that actual guidance of why you may have the voice for them. Everyone's not fit for everybody, but there is an actual set group that you have a voice to. So,
Right.
Mrs. Jones, I'm gonna give you the floor to be able to tell them what they need to do to live victorious. The floor is yours.
To live victoriously, number one, I would say you need to be you. Put yourself in a place of being a priority. Because if you don't, there's no way you can live victoriously, because you're going to be looking after everybody else. Everybody else is more important than you. That's what you'll have in your head. And to give yourself boundaries. There are boundaries that we need to stay within. It's okay to take care of somebody, to provide for somebody, to be a caretaker, but you also have to look for yourself. And I go into a little bit in the course about meditation, meditating and knowing who you are. My podcast is about to start also, and it's called Discovering You. And if you can discover who you are, you will want to live victoriously, because that's when you will begin to know who you really are. And also, I have a retreat that's coming up in October for women that we're going to just go inside a lot of self-awareness, a lot of meditation, yoga, just so you can figure out who it is that's inside there that needs to come out to live victoriously. Because I believe if we don't tap into our inside of who we really are, it's no way you can live victoriously, because that's the step to tap into really who you really are. And that will help you live victoriously. And then enroll in my program. We will walk through it step by step to get you to live victoriously.
Amen. Now you heard it very first, the Logan Power Show. Ms. Jeanette Jones, keep in mind, she has the book. The book, again, is Step by Step Walk with God, the Everlasting Anchor. And also she has her company Living Victoriously, LLC. This is a life coaching for women, understanding you know what you need. If you're a lady out there that needs a coach, hey, this is a person that it may have be the right person for you. So give her an opportunity. If the book is something that's going to trigger your spirit, this is the book you want to purchase right now. So I tell you right now, family, food for thought. Live every day victoriously. Know that you are the head, not the tail, that you are above and not beneath. And know this, 2 Corinthians 5 verse 7, but we walk by faith and
Yes.
not by sight. And I tell you right now, you keep walking by faith and God will have the plan if you live victorious for the rest of your life. That's all the time I got. My name is Calvin, the Logan Power Show, nationwide, worldwide. We love you. See you soon.
It's the Logan Power Show. Inspirational and motivational. It's the Logan Power Show. Informational to help you grow. Logan Power Show.